Hey, what's going, y'all? It is yours truly once again. Oftentimes, I hear about this terminology of the opposite sex. And of course, growing up, that's all I've heard. But coming into the understanding and overstanding that I have today, I see things a little different. Now, with all that said, I get it. The opposite sex, that is a terminology for most of those in general, like in regards to what one would prefer to say. I get that. But see, like I said, I see it a little differently. So here I go. Instead of the opposite sex, what if I were to tell you that one should say, yes, one should say the complementary sex instead? Well, if you think about it, the opposite, more or less, is still based on some type of equality. It's just that there's an opposite to that, an equal opposite. So that's kind of what one is really saying when they say opposite sex. It's just like it's like a equal opposite. Opposite also implies that it's the same but different. So there's an oxymoron to that. Kind of like a different pair of shoes, one for the left foot and one for the right foot. But see, in the case of the left foot, right foot, it's complementary to each other. Okay? It's complementary. So that's what I mean. There's so many ways we can go with this. So yes, in regards to the feminine and the masculine, if we just would say the complementary sex versus the opposite sex, because both are not opposed to each other. What I'm really saying is that for the longest, just saying the word opposite sex goes against the unity of the sexes by saying opposite sex. How about just saying unified sexes? But at most, this is why I say complementary sex, because of how one complements the other. Like the left foot and the right foot complement each other in many ways. And sometimes one of your foot is smaller than the other. That's another thing, but that's a side note. But just looking at the feminine and the masculine, both are not made the same. Hence the term same sex, and no pun intended about the idea of same sex. But I believe that this idea of opposite sex just supports the idea of same sex, whereas I don't believe it's about same sex supporting opposite sex. Because in actuality, like with the way a lot of the social dynamics are going, it's not about the different sexes complementing each other. It's about them being opposite of each other, opposed to each other. That's why there's even a lot of opposing viewpoints, kind of like as if to say, as I've heard some radicals say, the feminine and the masculine actually represent two different species. But if that was the case, and hear me out, if that was the case, we wouldn't be able to procreate. But that's for another topic. The rabbit hole gets real deep about that. But keep this in mind about this idea of opposite sex that's been widely used in today's times and even times prior. Basically, it's this, and this is what I've gathered. This idea that, if we can't be equal, then we might as well be opposite. Hence the idea of equal opposite. So opposite sex to me really means equal opposite, because yes, if we can't be equal, then we might as well be opposite. And I think a lot of people, they don't get that's kind of what the message is behind this idea of opposite sex. What are y'all thoughts? Thanks a million.